Obsidian, the personal knowledge database solution that will take over your life, steal your girlfriend, and take your dog. Don't say we didn't warn you.
Obsidian recently came out with an update that adds a feature that is really cool that has kind of always been there, but it has been closer to computer code rather than markdown. So it's been something that I didn't use all that much, but with the update, it's now a lot easier for somebody who is not as code friendly as I am to use it. And there is one small detail that if you don't do it right, it will completely mess you up down the road. So I want to save you that headache. So let's jump in. Hello and welcome. My name is Jonathan Pritchard from iCanReadMinds.com. I own that site because by night I am a traveling mind reader. I've gone all over the world with a 70-minute mind reading show that uses applied psychology, showmanship, and moxie to make it look like I can read minds. And I've used Obsidian to write multiple 70-minute shows, and it helped me transition into the business consulting world. So by day, I teach good companies the secrets to applied psychology, communication skills, influence, marketing, sales, all that kind of stuff. And Obsidian is at the core of how I manage all of that information and creativity and writing and scripting and keynote speaking and all of that stuff. That's why I love sharing really cool Obsidian details. And this one is going to be really, really cool. So let's get into the screen share and I'll show you what I'm talking about first by showing you how I used to do it and then what the update is, and then that one detail that if you don't do it right, you're totally hosed. So here we go. And we are in my example database, my example vault. And say we wanted to keep track of movies. Let's just make a new thing and we'll call it movies. Let's say it's The Matrix. And then when I would add a new movie to my database, I would want to know kind of who the director is and Wachowskis. I'm not sure if I'm spelling that correctly, but it would be the Wachowskis. And then what year was it released? I'd say 1999. Don't need to look that up. And the genre would be action, sci-fi. And then I would add something like tags or something like that, and then go action, kung fu, martial arts, jujitsu, explosions, mind bending. I would add all of these tags so that I could find this movie later, that any way that I could possibly think to look it up. So all of these details are things about the note that I'm writing. And that's why it's kind of a note about a note. So it's that metadata about whatever information you want to keep track of. And normally when I would make a new movie note like this, I would have to add in the directors and release year and genre and tags. So I would normally make a template that I could plop in here using the command palette. And I will add a link to that video here where I explain how to use templates and when you would want to use them and how and that kind of a thing. But the update that Obsidian released fairly recently means that you don't necessarily have to have a template for your movie like this. You can still have a template, but it'll be just a little different. And I want to show you what that is now. So we will jump into the settings and go to core plugins. So this is a core plugin that Obsidian has. It's not a community plugin. This is part of the core functionality of Obsidian. And as we scroll down here, the one that we're looking for is Properties View, which is show the metadata for your files. All right, so that's enabled here. And the editor, let's see, appearance about, there we go. So I'm currently using version 1.4.5. So if yours looks different than this, it might be a different theme or a different version, but you at least need to have 1.4, I believe, for this to work. So let's go back into the file here and then bring up the command palette, and we'll look for properties. And here are the two things that we're looking for. We don't want show all properties just yet. We want to show file properties, and we do that and nothing really changes, right? So we can see over here on the sidebar, add property. And here you can see that there are some properties already outlined. And what this is doing is it is going to kind of bring all this metadata into one place, and it'll all live kind of at the beginning of the note. So we could have a field there. It's just two pieces, the detail, the kind of detail, and then what the detail is. So here we would want to know who the director is and who is the director. All right, so we'd say director and Wachowski's are the director. Cool. And as you can see, it's over here in the sidebar, and it showed up here in the top part of our note. And this is where it will kind of live for the most part. And you can add all these details. So you can say add property and release date, and then say 1999. But this is a year, which it's kind of your choice, because there are different property types. You can say this is purely text. It's a list. It could be a number. It could be a checkbox, which is a true or false. You've done it or not. It is checked or not. It could be a date, or if you want a specific time, say 7 a.m., you also have to say what day it is. So if you wanted to make this a daily tracker of, hey, what time did I wake up today? You could change this to the release day. You could say the day down to it was at 8 p.m., which would be 20 o'clock, right? So it could be release day, but I would like to keep that as text, and it'll just be 1999, enter. Okay. And then the genre could be we'll just add that. And then it should be a list of items, because it could be action, sci-fi, and there you go. And then you can also have a preset tags here that functions just like these tags that I've already added into this document, but they can live here now. And you can see that it kind of already understands that these hashtags, it auto imports all the hashtags you've used in your vault already. So it'll just look for them. So you can add in all of these, and now your tags live at the top of the document. So now you don't need all of your metadata in the note. It can live up here at the top in the properties, where you can collapse it, you could expand it. And this is really, really cool. And if you want to see kind of what this looks like in the Markdown view, you can come up here and then go to source mode, and then you'll see that it's 3 lines, and then it's all outlined like this, and then 3 lines. So this is called frontmatter, YAML, YML, and that's why technically you've been able to use frontmatter for a long time already. but you would need to know to do those 3 dashes, and you have to know the correct syntax for all of this stuff. Like if you add a semicolon somewhere, it breaks everything. So you have to know the computer language to be able to hand type all of this stuff. Well, one of the reasons why I like Obsidian is that it's markdown friendly and you don't need to know computer code. You don't need to know programming in order to do this. And that's why I've stayed away from using frontmatter or YML or YAML, whatever you want to call it. I haven't used it because I didn't want to mess with it. But now with the Properties Core plugin, there's a graphical user interface. There are buttons and fields. Yay for people like me who don't want to hard code this stuff. I want to point and click and type things in where I know they need to be. So you can go away from source mode and then see it in this version, and that's kind of cool. Now, another note on the genre and property type. This is a way of ensuring that whatever field you're entering information into, you're entering the right kind of information. So if you are tracking a number, say you've got you weigh yourself every day, you're working out, you're trying to beef up, whatever, you want to weigh yourself every day, and then you're going to plot those numbers on a graph. Well, that graph can only show you numbers. So if you type in something with words, you want to make sure that you can't do that. So you're kind of protecting your system from any kind of wrong information type. So this is a huge thing in programming. I've taken, I think, 1 or 2 programming classes, and verifying the data type is really important for any kind of computational stuff. So it's really important for stuff that I don't really do, but you might be frustrated or confused by what all this stuff is, of why it's a number or text or a list or a checkbox and that kind of stuff. It's important if you want to do extra mojo with the kind of information that you are putting into this. And if you do want to do this, then you are going to want the DataView plug-in. So now that we've got all the metadata living in the properties section, well, now you can start pulling that information out of your database. And that's the cool part about having a database, is that all of your information lives everywhere that it lives in your Obsidian vault. And you can find it however you want. You can use links and folders and hashtags. And I've made a whole video about that too that I'll try to link to here. So the way that you find information is very flexible. And now with properties and this metadata, it gives you yet another way to pull in information into different notes where you want to see it. And this doesn't really change your information. It's simply a way of filtering through all of your notes or just one specific folder, wherever you kind of think the information is. And then you might need to see, I want you to show me movies that are only action. So you would set up a kind of filtered view in one of your notes that is asking your database, hey, show me what notes are tagged with action in the movies folder, and then show me what those are. So I want to show you how to do that. And to do that, let's drag this movie note into a new folder that we call movies, and add in the matrix here. And then we go into our community plugins and make sure that DataView is installed and enabled. And in all the walkthroughs that I've seen about DataView, all of these are always checked. So I don't know why. I just check them and it works. So that's my approach. And we'll make sure that is there. And we'll make a new note and say data view example. All right. In order to use data view, you do need to know a little bit of coding. And to be honest, most of the time, anytime I'm setting up a new one of these, I will Google, how do I use data view? And then kind of copy their example, paste it into my vault, and then change the details to match what I know it needs to be. And then it works. So I don't do this from my brain every time. I do it the hard way, and it works out. So I will go find that, put that here, walk you through how I understand it, and then you'll be able to understand what you need to go search for, copy, and paste into your own vault. Okay, and I am back. Here is what it looks like. In order for this to work, you have to do 3 tick symbols, which on my MacBook is right by the number 1 to the left. So that little accent. So it's not the quotation mark apostrophe, it's the other direction. So it's 3 of those from the left of your number 1 that you're looking for. So those 3 tick marks, and then data view. And then I want a list. So I would like a list. And there are other options like a table where it's going to have columns and rows that you can sort and all that kind of stuff. We can look at that in just a minute. But the simplest thing that I want to show you is a list. So I want to show a list of results of stuff from the folder called movies. So from movies has to be in quotation marks. And that tells this little piece of code to go look in the movies folder. So it's not going to look through my whole vault. It's only going to look in that folder called movies. And then where is kind of a conditional thing. So I want you to list the results from the movies folder where there's a tag equal to action. So you hit enter and then 3 tick symbols, boop, 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 and then you hit enter, and voila, it has given us the result of the matrix, right? So it's not changing any of the information in your vault. It is simply asking the DataView plugin to go find some stuff in a place that only has these properties to it, right? So we can kind of show what that looks like. So movies, and how about we duplicate this? Can we do that? Do I have one of those plugins here? I'm not sure. Anyway, let's go to the source mode, copy this, add a new movie, and we'll call it. All right, through the magic of editing, I have added this new video to the movies folder here. So now you can see that Singing in the Rain, actually directed and choreographed by Gene Kelly, released in 1952. It's a musical genre, and some of the tags would be dancing, black and white, classic. So some of those elements. So you can see from the DataView example where tag equals action. Let's go back to source mode. Okay. And I just figured out that I didn't have my code right. So So that's yet another example of why I don't mess with this very much. Just from my head, I don't understand it. So I still want to show you how I do this to show you that you can still make it work for you, even though it'll be very frustrating to get it figured out. It can be worth the effort. So the real way to filter this is to say from movies with the quote and then and hashtag action. So it will be from movies and have the tag action. And then we see the matrix. Because if we didn't have and action in there, it's listing all the movies from that folder. But we want to maybe say action films. And then we can say, all right, so they have the tag action, and now only the matrix shows up. And then we can say black and white classic movies. Then we can borrow this, paste it in, and say classic see if that works. I'm not sure. Black and white? Nope. Maybe underscore. How did... So how does it keep track of, black and white? All right. So you can kind of see how, we'll just say it's classic movies here. And then we'll get rid of the black and white. And this is now a sneak peek into that thing that is insanely frustrating if you don't know about it. And here it is, right? Because I hope that you get that the quick interview or quick introduction to DataView helps you sort all of your notes that you have been adding metadata to. You can now make a note that says, keeping track of my favorite movies. And then you can have action films, and then it will only pull in your action films because you've filtered by action tag. Then classic movies. Okay, so you're filtering by the classic tag. So you can build out these sorted and grouped pages and notes, and you can have dashboards where you can have your to-dos and overdue, and you can build out really complicated things. So it's really powerful kind of a thing that you can now do with the properties that you used to have to know even more computer code than what I've shown you here. But we're running into a problem, which is that over here in the tags, it is saving black and white as 3 separate hashtags instead of one tag like I would like it. And that's the thing, which is I added it over here. So here we can here's some extra data view ways to sort information. So the table view is kind of the same as this list view that we've got here. So instead of a list, we could paste in the thing here. And over here, it's release date. So the element is release date 1952. So we would say release date, and we can delete all these others because this is actually from my personal vault. So for example, here we're just going to say release date from movies and classic. But we get this error, which is parsing failed, and the table I know works, but release, and then the problem is here in date. It can't make sense out of date for some reason. What is that? Well, if you're like me, you expect to be able to have any kind of information over here, like release date. But when you're trying to use the data view query and all that kind of stuff, when you're actually trying to use it, it won't understand the space between release and date. So it's not the date that's the problem, it's the space between release and date. So that's the big secret. It drove me bonkers for way too long to figure out that that's what the problem was. So what you have to do is take out the space and then go back to here and take out the space. And now it should do it. So if we do this, hey, look at that. It's showing us the file and it's showing us the date that it was released. Pretty cool. But if you're like me and you made a whole database of notes with the space between those, and then you're going, oh, I'm going to use properties. This is going to be so fantastic. It's going to be great. And you build out this whole bunch of stuff, and then you try to use data query and nothing works, and you try troubleshooting it for hours and it still doesn't work. Then you realize, oh, it's because the space between those, I had to go through every single note and take out the space in the left side of all of the properties there. So that's the one thing that could save you hours and hours and hours of time, which is every single kind of piece of information that you add, if you would add a space to it, don't add a space, or you can do an underscore or a dash or something. But for me, I just did capitals in front of all the correct words. So that is a relatively quick introduction to properties, how to use them, and then how to leverage them with DataView, and also how to shoot yourself real hard in the foot by introducing those spaces into those details and elements that any sane person would put in there, but you don't realize it's a problem until you start trying to use DataView to build those aggregated views in your notes. So I spent hours figuring that out. Hopefully it saves you a lot of time. Thank you so much for checking this out. If you liked it, it'd really mean a lot to me to give it a thumbs up. That helps me know that it's helping you out. It also helps YouTube know that you enjoyed it enough that other people should see it as well. And also, if you did like it, you could subscribe to the channel, or you could check out this other Obsidian video to kind of dig in deeper and get more out of this amazing, incredible program. That's it for me. As I always like to say, if you can change your mind, you can change your life.